GM Crypto AI News Analysis here. It is January 29th. And before I get into this video, I just want to say none of the things I talk about in this video are buy or sell things, buy MD's takers. They're all my own conviction for where I think the current market direction is going, and that I am not being paid to talk about MD's takers at all. So let's first of all talk about the price action. So we usually like to talk about AI, and AI currently isn't super in the focus. I think it is mindshare wise, but the whole altcoin sector is down bad, and it's because Bitcoin dominance is absolutely ripping through the highs, and we should see some very good times in the next 2 weeks. I'm going to talk about that a little later. I'm just going to talk about some Bitcoin and how it's going on, but basically, let's just talk about the AI space since that's what I usually talk about. So virtuals, again, looks pretty fucking bad, and a lot of the coins, a lot of the agents are still looking pretty bearish, not really going anywhere, but we should be seeing some bottoms on these coins very soon. So some coins out here are bouncing if you were positioned in some of the lower caps and whatnot, but so far a lot of tokens are doing bad. And then on Solana, so AI16Z looks pretty fucking bad, but ARC on comparison, which is the other infra coin, looks very strong. So this one is looking beautiful. But basically, AI not really doing the best. Base meme coins, on the other hand, actually holding up really well. So KeyCat, probably my favorite base meme coin, extremely strong. This is probably one of the top 5 meme coins in the whole fucking space, like across all chains. This is insane. Like there was Murad's list, and he was basically saying that KeyCat's up there in the top 5 that are actually up alongside SPS 6900. And yeah, you could argue that SPS 6900 and Giga are probably 2 of the best meme coins to ever exist, but or at least performance wise. But KeyCat has a lot more upside since it's a lower cap, so which is why I'm in this one. But KeyCat looking very fucking good. If we look at the Solana meme coin sector though, the meme coins on Solana look fucking horrible. So Trump consolidating this range. Maybe this could be some sort of compression for another leg. We'll see what's going to happen. But it's been down only forever. I wouldn't be surprised if there's some sort of recovery pump. But then also things like VIF. Dog with Hat is actually recovering a little bit. It was pretty much down only, but pretty much up almost 25% from the lows, which is insane for such a large cap like this. But I'm going to talk about that a little later. But basically right now, altcoins look pretty fucking ugly. And what I would really recommend if you were guys to get into this for the first time or have any capital, I would imagine some of you guys are already bag holding a lot of this shit, and you're like, damn, well, what the fuck? What's going to happen, bro? And I'm just going to tell you guys that in Q1, February, March, is going to be really good. So liquidity is projected to rise amongst the whole global markets, and then there's also the TGA spend down, and then also interest rates being cut from Jerome Powell being quite an interesting spectacle where people are going to have a risk on sentiment to buy Bitcoin, which is going to be pretty fucking nice. But also you got to realize a lot of these tokens have been down only for the longest time, like Solana meme coins, even Ethereum. And the thing is that nothing can go down forever, and there will usually be some sort of a reversion back upwards. I mean, you could argue that if that's even real or not, but the fact is that most people who are in Bitcoin is it's the strongest crypto out there, right? But as Bitcoin goes up and they see the altcoins in comparison being at this down range, then they're like, wow, this looks so cheap, and people are eventually going to rotate their Bitcoin profits into altcoins here. So it's going to go to Ethereum, and then it's going to go to the Ethereum altcoins, and then meme coins and all this shit. Liquidity always trickles down from the largest caps to the lowest caps. And right now, Bitcoin dominance is still extremely insane. And you got to realize that this effect will happen. So don't shit your pants about this. But basically, if we look at meme coins, so if I were to suggest any place, so of course everything looks pretty ugly, but KeyCat, so, I mean, it's a bit of a pullback today. I mean, not really, but this one's going to be extremely strong. I will show you that with KeyCats. But also, Solana meme coins should be bottoming very fucking soon. Like, all the people who wanted to sell on these coins already sold. So, one of the coins that I'm looking at is Mini here. So, Mini looks, to me, this looks extremely fucking bottom. I ain't even gonna lie. And usually, the thing is a Mini is that it has a huge-ass fucking run-up for like a 1 to 2 weeks. And then it chills for a bit. And it's been a very fucking long time. And it's about time for this to have another fucking run, which is why I position myself in this one. So Mini, for example, looks very bottom, but a lot of other tokens on Solana look extremely bottom. So even PopCat shouldn't go much lower from here. And there should be some sort of a reversion, at least up to the mid-range here, maybe to 1 billion or something. But we'll see what's going to happen. You got to realize some of these tokens aren't going to go up only. or have a V-shaped recovery, they have to bottom out first. But the meme coins and so on do seem to be bottoming out. And then on virtuals, on the other hand, again, very good prices across the board. So again, you could probably dollar cost average in these tokens, be like, yeah, well, this could be very good entries because AI still is going to be probably one of the biggest narratives in the coming weeks. And meme coins will be pumped because they've just been down only for the longest time. But even if you look at AI, like AXPT, for example, still up only. So can you even really complain about this? Extremely, extremely strong. But let's look at the Cookie.fun dashboard really quick. So market cap wise, it's pretty much down from the last couple of days or so. It used to be like 15 billion, but it's 10 billion. So you can see how a lot of shit has taken a beating. Let's just talk about the tweets. So man, they really gave us the perfect setup for crypto AI. First, U.S. president appoints an AI and crypto czar. Then he announces a $500 billion AI fund, and now the best AI model is open source for next to nothing in cost by China of all countries, which will spark a fuse resulting in the U.S. doubling down, producing the greatest comeback in AI we'll see over the next couple decades and position open source crypto AI protocols as the largest beneficiaries. What a timeline! So yeah, you got to realize. So DeepSeek, I'm sure people have forgotten it, but DeepSeek has been around for the narrative the last couple of days, and you got to realize this strengthens the mindshare on crypto AI, not exactly just crypto itself, but AI, because DeepSeek, people can utilize that API to improve their own AI agent project. So it's a very fucking good thing for AI. Although the price doesn't reflect on that just yet, I believe that later on, people do rotate the Bitcoin profits into altcoins, then it will happen. There will be that liquidity trickle down effect, and people who are positioned to altcoins at the right time and don't capitulate the bottom here, they are going to be rewarded for it. So let's look at this next tweet. They waited until everyone dumped skull emoji. Viva La Vegas. So apparently Dog with Hat was supposed to have some sort of a Vegas collaboration here, and they sent this message like a day ago. And this was very bullish news, right? Because it actually gives you some utility behind Dog with Hat. But you gotta realize that Dog with Hat has been down only for the longest fucking time. And a lot of whales were capitulating down here at the bottom, like sub 1 billion. People capitulated, they're like, okay, fuck this shit, I'm out of here. And then this news came out right after that. And then some of the whales had to buy back higher. So you gotta realize that some interesting things are happening. Some people like to joke around that this is the McDonald's chart because you gotta apply to McDonald's from holding this with hat coin for the longest time. But you gotta realize that this token, it has so much fucking mindshare, eventually we'll have to, at least we'll do a mean reversion back up to the highs. We'll see if it goes above that, but at least a mean reversion back up to the highs, because Dog with Hat, it's kind of weird here. It doesn't really trend that hard. It's more of a mean reverting token. So any case, right now is a decent entry if you wanted to play the 4 to 5x in the next couple weeks, months or so. But Dog with Hat, very interesting things going on here. But let's look at this next tweet here. Justin, China allows ownership of Bitcoin and crypto. So China has their New Year's festival within the next few weeks or so in February, and they believe in all this luck, and they have a risk on sentiment because everyone's celebrating and shit. And it seems like that China now is allowing the ownership of Bitcoin and crypto, which is actually fucking good because that has more liquidity being onboarded to our altcoins essentially. But China is probably one of the biggest countries out there alongside, it's a global superpower alongside the US and Russia. And of course, they're going to have some money, right? And that some money will go into crypto here. And that's very fucking bullish for at least midterm because it just attracts more liquidity. So let's look at this next tweet. Breaking. Federal Reserve pauses interest rate hikes, remains at 4.25% and to 4.5%. So today there was an FOMC meeting with Jerome Powell, the head of the Federal Reserve. So people were really intent on listening to this and were trying to see if he was going to cut the interest rates or hike them. And last time with the Jerome Powell FOMC meeting, he said some weird wording and it made the price of Bitcoin go from like 109K to 92K, and everyone pretty much just got nuked. So a lot of people have this PTSD from last time, which is sort of already priced into Bitcoin, which is why some people are selling it before the event. But this whole event, I was watching it, is actually quite good. So he was wording some nice things here and there, and that he's not going to actually hike the interest rates, which is really fucking good, right? So I'm not going to try to pretend that I know the macroeconomic reasons for why interest rate cut is going to increase a Bitcoin's price, but basically the cause and effect is that if the Fed decreases the rates, so they cut the interest rates, then that essentially is going to create a risk on sentiment for Bitcoin, which means more people are going to be willing to buy it, because in comparison, why would they hold the dollar where the interest rate of it is going down for their bonds when they could just buy Bitcoin instead, which is historically the highest performing asset in the world, right? So it essentially attracts more people to buy Bitcoin instead of buying bonds here with the interest rates, because the interest rates, they affect the bond prices. If interest rates are high, then that means the bond prices are going to go up, the dollar is going to get stronger, so people are going to stick with the dollar, right? But if the interest rates go down and people don't have incentive to keep bonds, then they're going to want to buy riskier assets like stocks or crypto here. So this is quite a very good thing. So let's look at this next tweet. Justin, Fed Chair Jerome Powell says we don't need to wait for a 2% inflation to cut interest rates. So again, another bullish sentiment here where he's saying, yeah, well, there's more probabilities that perhaps we could cut some more interest rates and that we don't have to wait for the inflation. And it seems that the inflation overall in the economy, it doesn't really matter that much if it's at 2% anyways, but it seems that they're trying to wait for this magical number and people are expecting this, but they're like, oh shit, well, he doesn't have to wait for it anymore, so he can just do it anytime. So let's look at the next tweet. Breaking. Powell states banks are perfectly able to serve crypto customers, states Fed is not against crypto innovation. So yeah, pretty much the last question, this must be some sort of fate from God, but he was essentially asking Jerome Powell, it was this one reporter, and he was basically saying, okay, what are your thoughts on crypto as an unregulated asset class? What is the interest rate cuts going to affect? Is something like that, right? And he was essentially trying to gets some sort of a bearish answer from Jerome Powell, but he actually completely flipped on his intentions here and said that the banks are perfectly able to serve crypto customers, which essentially means that perhaps the pro-crypto administration, and by Jerome Powell and the Federal Reserve, is that they're actually supporting crypto instead of actually being bearish on it. Because you also have to realize Jerome Powell here, he most likely doesn't give that much of a fuck about crypto and most likely cares more about the bonds. Irregardless, this is a very good thing because that essentially reinforces the theory that the US is going to be very pro-crypto, which we know is the case with Donald Trump, right? And a bunch of the pro-crypto legislation, or perhaps the administration within the government. But this essentially strengthened it, and Bitcoin's price did spike a little bit during that moment. And we could see some sort of continuation because of this news here. And I'm going to talk about a bit more. So as I said earlier, with the Chinese New Year, where people are able to buy Bitcoin in China, and the fact that there's also a New Year's within China. So they like this sentiment of luck, and there's obviously they're celebrating. They're like so happy to have all this money, because I know there's a tradition in China. By the way, I'm not Chinese, but they be given these red envelopes and they're like, hey, I'll give you some money. So like everybody's getting money in China, they're spending money and shit. And when that happens, and essentially when their economy is essentially good, they're gonna be like, okay, well, I'm gonna speculate into some riskier on assets like Bitcoin here. So that essentially is going to rise the price of Bitcoin. And we know where that liquidity will eventually trickle down into, which is altcoins that we like to talk about, right? So it's going to be very fucking good. There's going to be a very good risk on assessment from China and some buying pressure from China in the next 2 weeks or so, which essentially is going to drive Bitcoin's price. And what does that mean for pretty much every altcoin? Well, very, very good things, right? Because that liquidity will have to trickle down at a point. So let's look at this next tweet. Looks like something is cooking on base. So D-Bridge is essentially showing how there's a lot of people bridging the base here. And I did talk about a lot in my previous videos where base chain is probably going to be super fucking big. Everyone is super focusing on Solana, and still people are focusing on Solana. But even KOLs, top KOLs like Ansem, are trying to see, okay, well, there's actually some things going on base. I might be interested in this, and perhaps some of that liquidity can flow over. Because you also have to realize a lot of the liquidity in crypto is still on Solana. And if more of that liquidity gets bridged into base and pumps the top meme coins or even AI coins, that's going to be very fucking nice to do. So let's look at this next tweet here. Top crypto exchange Kraken FX integrates the base chain in its platform, looks to be listing virtual as the first token from the chain. This marks one more tier one exchange that lists virtual, so who's next? So yeah, a lot of people are super fucking pissed off about Coinbase, where they were supposed to list virtuals, right? But they keep listing these random ass shit like Peanut and VVV and all of this stupid things, and people are like, okay, what the fuck are they doing here? And a lot of people are pissed off, right? And if even Kraken is now listing virtuals, which by the way is a pretty good thing, but you got to realize that a lot of people, they are expecting some sort of listing from Coinbase, and they should do it, right? Because a lot of people are already interested in virtuals. It already ran to billions of market cap without a listing. So it's just going to be even better, because then retail can more easily buy virtuals tokens instead of having to go on chain and do all this bullshit. So Coinbase does have a sentiment, but when will they actually act upon that, right? So let's look at the next tweet. Justin, President Trump slams Fed Chair Jerome Powell. If the Fed had spent less time on DEI, gender ideology, green energy, and fake climate change, inflation would have never been a problem. So yeah, within the FOMC, there was some asking of a questions to Jerome. So there was like this one guy, he was asking, okay, how will this affect the interest rates? How will it affect the DEI hires and the woman not being hired into the workplace, the black people, all this shit? And I was like, what the fuck? How is it even relevant to the Federal Reserve questions? But he was basically asking this, right? Because the people, they have most likely people on the left and the right asking them questions within the meeting here, and they're all trying to push their own agendas, right? But he was asking them these questions, and he's like, okay, well, I'm just going to do whatever the legislation allows me to do. Jerome Powell is giving a very neutral answer. He's always trying to be very neutral about it. That's one of the things that I respect about him, where he doesn't really pick a side. It seems he's very careful with how he answers the questions, because obviously a lot of things that he says can be quoted out of him, and he knows this consciously, which is why he's trying to be very careful. So he's basically saying, yeah, we're just going to pick whatever follows the legislation here. But essentially Donald Trump, he's a bit more unhinged, and he's more likely to not give a fuck. So he was like, yeah, okay, bro, what the fuck, bro? Like, have a more of a stance. If the Fed had spent less time on DEI, gender ideology, green energy, and fake climate change, inflation would never been a problem. And yeah, there was a lot of problems with inflation in the US, where the average person, they can't really afford groceries, they can't really afford housing, and a lot of people are under a lot of financial stress, which is a pretty big deal within Americans, right? And the fact is that since the government, instead of trying to fix all these issues at hand, the actual core issues like immigration, inflation, all this shit, like at least in the Biden administration, they were focusing on this DEI things, the transgenders, the blacks and the gays, and like, is it really that necessary? Like, from my perspective, is it really that necessary? But then, in comparison, we have all these motherfuckers, they're trying to just live and survive, but they can't even do it with a McDonald's job anymore. Like, I remember reading this book, and back then in like 1980s or so, a McDonald's worker essentially would have the salary equivalent today of $100,000, which is fucking insane. McDonald's workers nowadays, what is their salary? Like 20,000, 30,000. So you got to realize inflation is a pretty big deal. And the fact is that the cost of living has only increased. So people are really trying to hone in on these issues, right? The average person, they're really worried about these things. And most people, or at least the average person, the sane American, they don't really give that much of a fuck about all this DEI shit. It's really only the top people, the left people, the Biden administration, who are trying to push it for some reason. Perhaps you can have some theories about that, but I'm not going to go into that. But basically, they're just trying to do these things, and Donald Trump is like, yeah, bro, like, what the fuck are you doing here? But I think it's kind of interesting here. I somewhat agree with him, but let's look at the next tweet. I'm sat in a cafe, and the table next to me appear to be several big four consultants. They're debating the pros and cons of DeepSeek R1 versus ChatGPT, specifically for business operational efficiency gains. They touched on agents being used for actuarial modeling tasks within insurance. They noted NVIDIA taking a $500 billion hit the market cap and the cost inefficiencies in GPUs that achieve a model similar to O1. Mainstream media coverage is spiritually a debate. There's a clear appetite from large corporations to integrate agents and automation models into BAU operations. Agents aren't just a crypto movement. They'll replace how we interact with the internet or even the broader digital sphere. Soon, most won't even realize they're engaging agents to carry out tasks. So yeah, you got to realize that even the average person, or perhaps even, I suppose you could say retail, these guys are trying to implement AI agents within their own businesses. I know for sure within companies, even small companies, they're all trying to figure out how they can use AI to improve their business processes. I know this from my own experience. And yes, the AI race is insane, because the small majority of people who are realizing, like you and me, realizing that AI is going to be so fucking big, right? AI agents are going to be probably one of the biggest things within society. It's going to be as commonplace as using your phone here. But the fact is that most motherfuckers don't care about it, or are keeping a blind eye to it. They're like, oh, whatever, is this ChatGPT? What the fuck is it need to do, bro? I use that sometimes at work. But yeah, you got to realize AI is going to be insane within the real world. But then the fact is that if you can tokenize it in crypto and you can invest into those AI agents, and the fact that it's only a 10 billion market cap, the entire AI agent sector, which is probably even going to be even bigger than using a fucking phone, like, bro, it's just so bullish long term for the AI space, because it is the future. It is, like, unironically. And the fact is that a lot of people are catching on to it in the business world, and then once they realize they can invest into AI using tokenized crypto, and it also sounds cool. Investors, retail investors, when people ask them, oh, what are you investing to? Oh, I'm invested in AI. Like, there's even more of a reason to invest in it because it makes you sound smart. But yeah, that's basically what I'm trying to say here. So basically, pretty good times are coming ahead. I know a lot of people are down on their bags. They're like, oh, what the fuck is going on, bro? This is so doomed. But in the next 2 weeks or so, couple weeks, they should be quiet to good times because there should be some buying pressure for Bitcoin, which is essentially going to increase everyone's bags. And some of that liquidity will trickle down into the altcoins like Solana and Ethereum, and eventually the super altcoins like meme coins, AI coins, all this shit. But honestly, if I were to predict, like again, I would still argue that base meme coins are definitely the strongest. So KeyCat, for example, definitely one of the strongest meme coins out there. But yeah, I would personally just say focus on base still. Solana meme coins, in comparison though, have very, very fucking good entries on a lot of coins. A lot of coins are bottomed. So Mini, for example, I was talking about earlier, and even some of the small caps like Venom Gook and Rap Dog. So I mean, you look at these charts and they look super doomed, but you gotta realize that a lot of these tokens and meme coins, there's always some market maker behind them where they're trying to keep everyone selling their bags at the bottom here, but then eventually they pump it because they're trying to pump their own bags. There's always some sketchy ass shit going on with meme coins. So you could play this game where you find these super bottom coins with active communities and then you bid some money there. Like you don't have to bid that much money because you never know which one's gonna pump first, but it's a pretty good game. Personally, I'm doing that with a smaller amount of my portfolio, finding some really bottom coins and then bidding a little bit of money. But that's pretty much all I'm saying in this video, and pretty good times are coming ahead. AI is going to be amazing, and yeah, I'll see you guys.